Hello, guys, and I really hope this is recording right. Welcome to That's Gay with Diana Hole. I've been wanting to do a kind of podcast kind of production for a while now, and I have figured that I would try to do a LGBT sort of news kind of deal because it kind of gets buried or swayed a lot by major network sources that I have seen. So I will try my best just to stray away from sources like, Fox News, CNN, BuzzFeed, and things like that that have an agenda because the only agenda that we support here is the gay agenda. But I will be giving my opinions based off of the articles that I find, and I will be linking those in the description. So please feel free to look up more information on the topics or discuss them in the comments or even talk to me about them in real life because the only way for us to deal with these events and subjects is to talk about them. So, I am going to start talking about the first article with a disclaimer. I do not, and I do not want to be, one of those orange man bad kind of Trump critics because I recognize that a lot of the rollbacks on LGBT uh, securities are not directly his doing because the president is literally slightly more than a figurehead, you know what I mean? But the people who he have put in place in his administration are responsible for a lot of the stripping of the different securities that we had put in place in the past couple years. And I know he will preach all day long about, I love the gays love me. No, they don't. We don't. And he doesn't love us. But I am going to say that no, some of this is not his fault. This is just the administration while he is president. That is not to say that I agree with anything that he says. But I know he likes the attention, so we're going to stop giving him that attention and move on to the first article. The first one is about the Labor Department expanding the religious exemption um, when hiring people when it comes to federal contractors. So let me just read this quote from the article. It says that it was supposed to provide the broadest protection of religious exercise for federal contractors that declare themselves to be religious. So, long story short, if a federal contractor decides that they have some sort of religious conviction or has certain religious views to where they only want people of their religion, or they don't want to support, or they don't want to hire people based off of their religion, then they would have the right to do that. Um, because I have been in a situation before where I have been shot down from an establishment that I was applying for a job for because of the rumors that I was gay, which, shocker, turned out to be at least a little bit accurate. But I was told that I was not going to get the job, and I found out that it was because of those rumors. Um, and it's because of religious protections like that that I was not able to get the job because they were able to say that their religion did not support a lifestyle like I was living, and um that was their right. And that was their right. So I've been on the opposite side and it's not fun. And I do understand that, of course employers are going to want to uh they're not going to want people who they view as being delinquent or immoral or something like that to work for their establishment. Of course not. But that shouldn't be a that shouldn't be labeled as some sort of protection when it comes to people who are LGBT, because we don't have the choice to, not be gay. You know, you don't have the choice to not be trans. You don't have the choice to turn your life around and not be that thing. Like something that it's not something that needs to be protected against. You know what I'm saying? And this isn't just an LGBT problem. Like, say that a federal contractor, you're applying to work for something like that for the federal government, and you're Jewish or you're Muslim or something like that. They would have the right to say, I'm sorry, you're not going to get hired because you're Jewish, because you're Muslim, because you're freaking Taoist or Wiccan or something. Do you see how that is kind of that you see how that's wrong? Now, this goes against the section 204C of Executive Order 11246. Basically, that is a executive order about how businesses shouldn't take into account someone's, their race, their ethnicity, their country of origin, their language, stuff like that. It says that those should not be deciding factors. And really, in my opinion, we need to add sexual orientation to that because, I mean, like I said, it's not something that you can help. It's literally a characteristic, just like any of those other guidelines, that really should not be part of the application process. The proposal says that it's the federal government's duty to protect religious exercise, not impede it. Well, no shit, Sherlock. If we were to enact what this proposition is, would that not be putting one religion over others? Like, I mean, I get how people who are hiring for positions want to have people with a similar mindset working together. I mean, I understand where they're coming from with that. But I mean, you can't say that, the person who is, well, really, they're discriminating. The person who is discriminating by not hiring someone based off of their religion or their lifestyle of that sort, um, you can't say that's not impeding other religions. Now, this proposition is undergoing a 30-day public the this proposition is undergoing a 30-day public comment period. So this is not set in stone yet. This is just to gauge public's reaction to it. I think we all should be more pissed about this. Of course, you're going to have people who agree with it, but no. I hate to tell you, but you cannot have the freedom to take someone else's religion or sexuality or something like that and not hire them because it conflicts with your own lifestyle and religion. That's just not right to me, and I don't see how some people could justify that. So the second article I got is from US News, and this is no like recent thing that history that in some states um LGBT history is being required of public school systems. Now, it is new that Illinois has added its name to that roster because of Governor J.B. Pritzker. I am sorry if I butchered your name, but who am I kidding? They're not watching this. Anyway, um, this would make Illinois the fourth state that requires public school systems to teach LGBT history. I think that that is fantastic. I don't think it's really. the LGBT I don't think it's right that they're forcing the public school system to pay for um uh, new textbooks with LGBT history included in it, but it is important that they are getting, you know, the history that is inclusive of, the people who helped shaped our history. I remember hearing in one of my college classes that um they were doing this, and then the first thing someone said, in one of my fellow students, he criticized it. One of my fellow students criticized it by saying, "Well, that was just like a recent thing that we legalized gay marriage, and that's the only thing that I can think of. So, what exactly would they be teaching?" And I've seen, a bunch of critics of this where they were thinking that, of course, it's the gays that you're teaching to kids, and saying that obviously it's going to be something sexual or it's going to be something with that kind of agenda to it, um, which is not the case. For example, I will give in my one of my recent videos, the Frankenfurter uh, makeup video I put out. The homosexuals at the time were forced to wear the pink triangles, much like how the Jewish people had to wear the yellow stars, and they were thrown into the concentration camps with, the disabled, the Jews, the anyone that the German fascists deemed as, someone they didn't want in their perfect society. But the homosexuals were lumped in with pedophiles, and because of that, a lot of historical sources didn't want to make the distinction between them, and of course didn't want to talk about how the gays were thrown in the concentration camps. And I think that it's important to talk about stuff like that because, as someone who is in the LGBT community, um, I had no idea. And, obviously this other student who I'm not going to name for obvious reasons, um, they had no idea. No one knows about how gay people were affected, or how gay people contributed, or how gay people did all the things that helped shape human history. And to me, this is kind of like the way that, older history books didn't want to put in, black people's contributions, or, you know, some textbooks don't have uh, incidents with the Native Americans or things like that, because it makes people uncomfortable to talk about those because they were taught to think that um, it was not, it wasn't necessary, or it wasn't, important, but it ended up being. Those were important things in our history, and we need to talk about them. So I think it's phenomenal that Illinois and the four other states that are requiring this are basically saying, no, this is important information. You're going to learn about this. Y'all are going to learn today. The Asbury Park Press I saw critiqued this by saying, the government has no right to teach our kids morality. I do agree with that to an extent. Um, I will say that public schools are already teaching kids morality, and just because it is a morality that differs with that of some people does not mean that suddenly schools are um, enforcing this morality on children, because they're already enforcing certain morals onto kids, like sharing, and uh I don't a big thing in my elementary school was tardiness and stuff like that. And you know that to me is enforcing morality, which that is a good thing. Now schools aren't enforcing um you have to be this religion, or you have to live life this certain way. in enacting this kind of enacting this kind of uh curriculum is not going to change that. In fact, um I am going to list these names because y'all deserve to know what y'all are doing. Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Texas actively have a ban on referring to homosexuality being taught in health classes. Now, is that not enforcing morality? Like, I'm gonna say that the health classes here in Georgia are pretty shit, especially like sex ed. Um, and y- a lot of states do not even touch on teaching safe sex in general, much less gay people existing. Um, most of the states that I just listed actually have the highest amount of STDs and teen pregnancies in the country. And those states preach primarily abstinence. And because of the lack of education and not being able to talk about these subjects in a sex ed class, is leaving people in the dark and is hurting them later in life. And I know there's people who don't want their kids to hear about, sex and hear about the gays and hear about STDs and, pregnancy and that kind of stuff. Your kid needs to hear about this stuff. Even if they're not gay, even if they're not having sex, there's plenty of people who are having sex and who are gay and who are contracting STDs, and your kids need to know how to protect themselves. And I found this interesting. I took a screenshot from this article and I just want to read this real quick for y'all. Alabama law, for example, states that when discussing sexual health education, classes must emphasize in a factual manner and from a health perspective that homosexuality is not a lifestyle acceptable to the general public and that homosexual conduct is a criminal offense under the laws of the state. That is fucking wild. Like, no, homosexuality is not punishable as a criminal act. Not in America, thank God. There are in some countries, but thank God we have straight pride, right? Um, uh, fos- these laws foster an unsafe and unwelcoming school atmosphere and cited its study showing that LGBT students in these states are likely to have less support in school from teachers and students. Well, no shit. They're not going to know how to protect themselves against STDs. They're not going to know safe sex. They're not going to know anything on how to live life as an adult because like it or not, sex is a thing that adults do. Sex is a thing most teenagers do, but no one's ready to accept that yet. But like I said, your students are doing this. People are doing this. Your kid deserves to know how to protect themselves and how to e- and how to, if they're going to do something, which trust me they will, that they can do it in a manner that's not going to put themselves or someone else at risk. Now this next one, I knew it was going to be a big thing, so I looked up several different sources for it. I have LifeSite News and Pink News, which is a UK source. um I don't know if I'll be able to show the picture because of copyright. A 15-year-old boy who was holding a cross and rosary being picked up and carried off by riot police from an LGBT protest. LifeSite News compared it to the Tiananmen Square picture of the guy facing off the frickin' tank. They also compared it to a photo of the girl walking into Little Rock High School while they were yelling, "Lynch her," and "Attack her," and stuff like that. I hate to break it to you, Lynch News. This 15-year-old Christian is not facing any type of oppression. Like, I mean, I'm sure in his mind, yes, because he is Catholic. It said the article states that he is Catholic. So, um, it says photo Gloria TV. So I guess that's actually who took it, not the other person. I don't know. But he's standing in the middle of a road as a pride. I'm guessing it's pride. It's some sort of LGBT march, and and he refused to move. And it says that, oh, okay. But it says he wanted to give people something to think about and make them reflect, and that is why he wanted to, and that's why he was holding the rosary and the crucifix at LGBT people. LiveSite goes on to talk about how forced government indoctrination of school children in order to make them more open to questioning their sexuality while undermining their gender identity as either males or females has become totalitarian in nature. Bitch, what the fuck? Like, honestly, what the fuck are you on? Yes, I will say that public schools have become more accepting. That's not necessarily because of the schools, that is the children who are in there with your child. Because society, because parents, teenagers, children, everyone nowadays is being is encountering people who are LGBT, who are transgender, who are what does it say? Drag queens. Hey. Um so they're not being demonized as much as they used to be. And that's creating, well, this person's not as bad as I thought they were. So what made them be like this, you know? Am I like this? Am I gay? Am I a drag queen? Am I transgender? Am I anything like this other person is? Because they seem completely normal. That's what's happening to your kids. It's not the government forcing indoctrination on school children. Now, in Pink News, talks about how, you know, it says how the teenager, I'm not going to say his name because he is a minor, but how he describes himself as a Catholic traditionalist, conservative, and patriot, which honestly, you do you. I have no problem with you being Catholic or traditionalist or conservative or or a patriot. You know, being a patriot is a fantastic thing. I am very patriotic of the United States. I have my criticisms, but I love the United States. I would rather live here than Saudi Arabia or in Afghanistan where I will be thrown off a fucking building. You know what I mean? He says that he saw a wonderful picture of the Virgin Mary with a rainbow halo, and that's when he decided that he was going to do what he did. Now, as for him being removed by the riot police, um, this kid, he was, in my opinion, he was looking for something to happen, which I know that sounds horrible, but he talks about how he wanted as many people to see him doing this as possible, and how he sat on the pavement and prayed in Latin, how he was, you know, blocking the road from the police, like in front of the police, how he was basically just halting the thing. And the police um asked him to move out of the way. Like he says right here in his quote that I directed my prayer to the Mother of God and the ideal of purity. Policemen came to me and asked me to get out of the way. So, like, this is not, they saw him chanting his Latin, or they saw him, in the middle of worship and said, "Get him out of here." um, he refused to move out of the way of the march, and so they picked him up and moved him a distance away. So, yeah, I knew that this story was going to have a different take depending on which source was writing it, because simply because it has, a kid who is religious and the LGBT community, cuz usually when those things come usually when those things come together, it's a shitstorm. But basically, this kid was exercising his right to, pray in public and to, you know, do what he does religiously, you know, but he was blocking the road from an LGBT march and refused to move. So the police picked him up from where he was and moved him a distance away, and the march continued. So this was not an act of religious oppression. A Apparently, the kid later wrote on Twitter, "Our holy faith commands us to counteract evil deeds. I tried to do it, saying that I was going against people is harmful. Saying that I was going against people is harmful. I was going against the bad deeds they are promoting, homosexuality." Which, that is your right to believe. Like, that, there is nothing that I have against people. Like, I mean, of course, I'm going to think you're an asshole. But if that is your underlying core belief that homosexuality is bad, don't be a homosexual. Like, really, that's all that I'm saying, is just don't interact, but also don't sit in the middle of the road as a gay parade is coming towards you. You know what I mean? So I hope you guys like this change in format. Let me know if you like this format and you guys want more videos like this. Even it doesn't really even have to be LGBT it doesn't even really have to be LGBT news. But with a title like "That's Gay" with Diana Hole, I want it to be at least a little gay. Just a little gay, you know what I mean? Um but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hit that like and subscribe button if you like this video, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.